I'm picking the brains of sports anchors and experts from all over the country this season to get their picks for upcoming games. Today, I'm joined by Norman Seawright from WCCO4 in Minnesota. Good to see you, Norman. It's been a while.
Yeah, you too. How you been?
Doing great. Just getting ready to start the NFL season, of course, week 1. And we're going to get to the Vikings-Bengals matchup a little bit later. I want to start with the San Francisco 49ers at the Detroit Lions this week. This Niners team is one some are saying could be even more stacked than the 2019 Super Bowl team. So who do you think gets a win in week 1?
If the Niners stay out of their own way, they should be just fine. Trey Lance, obviously big name here in Minnesota, of course, from this area. But I think they're going to end up starting Jimmy Garoppolo just so he kind of gets, at least Lance does, gets an idea of what the game is like with Jimmy doing his thing. They still seem to believe somewhat in Jimmy. So it's kind of going to be a toss-up between how they feel about these guys. Detroit's defense won't have an answer for this offense really at all. So they'll run and throw all over them. At this point, it doesn't really matter who that quarterback is. They should be okay offensively. San Francisco should. But Detroit's offense seems like it's kind of chaotic in some of the better ways. Jared Goff has a lot to prove, so he will be a little bit more motivated as a quarterback. But they will have to score a lot, and they will have to score often because that defense isn't going to do them any favors.
And next up, I want to talk about the Green Bay Packers traveling to New Orleans to meet the Saints. Packers are favored for week 1 on the road. Who do you think, or do you think that this team can pull through?
I'll go ahead and just tell you right off the bat, Green Bay is going to win this one. As messy as that offseason has been, I think they're going to be hard to beat. Typically speaking, I don't really bet against Aaron Rodgers. I need to be overwhelmingly convinced that I should be doing that. And right now, New Orleans doesn't do it for me. Full stop. Aaron's going to be a little bit more. He's going to play kind of a vindictive style of football, which kind of sounds a little goofy. But he did have that dispute with the offseason with the front office. He's coming off an MVP year, and he'll probably be motivated to remind the organization why until he gets to the point where he's declining, he's pretty much going to want to ride that till the wheels fall off. And he's got Devontae Adams at wide receiver too, so he'll be comfortable doing what he does. That's not to say the Saints are slouches. They are still good. The question is, again, quarterbacks. Who are they going to stick with? There's the Jameis Winston and the Taysom Hill debate. They around the league, folks are still trying to convince themselves that Taysom Hill should be a long-term quarterback, and I'm not convinced about that. I tend to fall a little bit more on Jameis Winston's end of things based on his preseason performance. It seemed like LASIK did him good. Without Michael Thomas, though, the Saints will be depending, I think, a lot more on Alvin Kamara, which could make them not the worst scenario, but it could make them a little bit more one-dimensional, especially if the Packers kind of pick up on that, then load that box up and force them to throw. And then they have that very strong defensive secondary, which will make that just a tough time for the Saints offense. I just don't know that New Orleans will be able to overcome that.
Well, and you mentioned questions at QB for that team. Next, let's chat about another team that has a little bit of a quarterback question mark behind it. It's the Chicago Bears facing the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Matthew Stafford is taking over QB duties for the LA team. Meanwhile, it seems kind of to be a fight to get behind center in the starting lineup over in Chi-Town. So who's going to win this one?
I'm going to go with the Rams on this one. I know the Rams are favored heavily, and that's sort of following into that. But, Chicago is talented. It's just that talent field just quite isn't that deep enough to really give the Rams a run for their money. They're probably going to start Andy Dalton in Chicago, which I can understand why you would do that in week 1, just to make sure rookie quarterback kind of gets an idea for the game so he doesn't get beat up by Aaron Donald right away. I totally get that. But Justin Fields is so good. You'll have fans calling for him probably by the second quarter, put him in right now. But you don't want to get matched up right away, right? That offensive line is still kind of suspect. They're not super creative on offense, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But you don't really want to put your shiny new quarterback out there to get beat up when Andy Dalton has at least a chance to make that a little bit more respectable with his time there. Their offense, that's what that is. Their defense is going to be pretty good. At the very least, they're going to earn their money trying to keep this one from getting out of hand. Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith at linebacker will do their best. But Rams still have that strength. Stafford wants to ball out this year. He wants to prove he's got something left in him. McVay's going to let him do it. He'll give him a lot of creativity, a lot of weapons to work with. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, they will give that defense some headaches. And the Rams defense is one of the best in the league. So I don't see, barring a miracle, I don't see the Bears winning this one.
And finally, Norman, a team you know best, the Minnesota Vikings, meeting the Cincinnati Bengals week 1. What is your prediction for this game?
My pick on this one is going to be the Vikings. The odds makers are a bit split on this one, and I understand that. Both teams have some concerns. The Vikings offense hasn't fully been in sync in the preseason, which Mike Zimmer was being strategic, I think, with that, trying to make sure he got all the rookies, some looks, see what he can get out of these guys in preseason. So he knows what to do when building depth down the road. He's obviously quite confident in the defense, so that's really not going to be a big issue. Now, Irv Smith, of course, tight end, going to be out for the year. Tyler Conklin isn't necessarily a huge downgrade. He's fine at that position, but I know they really wanted Irv there. The defense obviously figures to be so much better this year than it was last year. It has been said that it's largely the same, but that ignores the fact that Neil Hunter at defensive end is returned. Dalvin Tomlinson's there. Patrick Peterson's there. This team is going to be, and it's not just the physical things they can do, it's the mentorship they can provide for the younger players, which they really want. So the defense is going to be just fine on that front. Now with the Bengals, Joe Burrow is back after being hurt. The offensive line, maybe they fixed that, maybe they haven't, but they do have good targets for him, Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. And it sounds like they really want to punish Peterson a little bit, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen to him. So the reason I do say the Vikings on this one, though, is even though the offense still has those question marks, the defense should sustain them long enough for them to figure that out.
The hometown team. Fans always love it when you pick the hometown team. I love that. We're going to see if these predictions are right, by the way. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Norman. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anytime.
And week 1 kicks off Thursday night with the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm Katie Johnston for CBS Local Sports.